as citizens, we own the United States, but the politicians take your property and hand it to the oil company, the mining company, the forestry company, and any other company that comes along that wants it.
Whenever we take stuff to other countries, we're charged a tariff on everything we take in. That's not fair trade. But yet, we do it for them. And so they come in, they pay no taxes on it whatsoever. We ship ours out, we get taxed double on it. Just like in Mexico, for example, you buy a new vehicle down in Mexico, it's double the price of what it is right here because of what they charge you in taxes to take it across the border. That was something that was supposed to help us out too. It didn't. That was another Republican idea. Yeah, it wasn't the toilet. Deregulation of the banks and everything else was another Republican idea, and we see where that took us. What we need to do is to create jobs, and I went to a meeting not long ago that the governor said when they get the stimulus package, they're going to regulate it out to you. In other words, if you want $50,000, you got to put up $50,000. Well, in an economy that's already depressed, that's not going to work.
We're still saying, okay, we hand out this buyout money or NAFTA money, and then if we pass it over to some executives and let them get $1 million bonuses, that's okay. Okay, but then they're whining about whether or not some guy that works in a plant gets a $600 Christmas gift. You know,
Yeah.
and they're halting that. We're saying if you're a contractor and you go into foreclosure, we will bail you out. But if you're a homeowner and you're not in foreclosure, we do nothing for you. But the homeowner who's not in foreclosure is America. And that is who they're supposed to serve.
I caught John Stewart interviewing Gwen Eichel, who is the host of, okay, and they had this little exchange about, well, why don't we do it this way? Why don't we designate that money for consumers? Just to pay off the consumer debt, let us take the money to the bank and let it trickle up instead of trickle down. And I said, why not? I mean, what's wrong with that approach?
Debt. A rising tide's going to lift all ships.
And that's what I think everybody is saying. We're saying the same thing, is that there's so much help for the person on top who already has. And then there's nothing for the person in the middle. But that is the person that put those people, that put a line on.
If you take $300, you get stuck away for 10 years.
Right.
If you take $300 million, you get off with hands like
You got to come back down to the middle class, the real middle class. And you got to support that middle class, because those are the people that put you in office. Because the guy with the $1 million only had one vote, and frankly, he didn't vote for him.
Our costs are based on our credit scores, like these adjustable rate mortgages and our insurance premiums and other things that we pay. And I don't know anyone who can afford COBRA at this point in time when they're losing their job. You know, why isn't it that the larger corporations who operate in America in the free market system, whom our sons and daughters are defending with their lives in other countries, and we are affording them that opportunity to live off the fruits of our labor, buying through our tax dollars and such, how come they don't have a credit score or a plan to help with the war effort or help their communities that they exist in out of the situation that they're in? And that includes the auto industry. Like when they go to Congress, why do they not have something that says, we are going to put $2 million into the Flint school system where X amount of our plants exist so that those kids can, you know, get an education and be trained to help us in our future endeavors. And then secondly, with the speaking to infrastructure, I was thinking that on the local levels or the state levels of government, with people out of work so much, that there should be like day labor jobs or piece labor jobs made available to the people who need some sort of something to do. And if these things, these services could be given a monetary value, in other words, like if the court needs someone to, I don't know, sweep the floors or whatever it is, and it saves the local government a certain amount of money out of their budget, then why couldn't the people performing those duties be allotted a cash value for their efforts in order to pay for their basic needs, like you know, heat and water and food and things such as that. And you know, I just think that if you know, jobs were, or like building new roads or filling in potholes or volunteer service at the school.
The grid, the electrical grid for California, $20 billion? Now that's far too much for them to be charging at a time like, you know, in a crisis like this, $20 billion. And that's not going to even take care of California.
Jobs are created. This is just kind of like, well, here's a little bit of bacon and bread for you. Maybe this will help you make it through the week. That's all this is.
You know, the initial stimulus package and the piece of ham and potatoes they're fixing to push out there is a good piece because it starts to generate the residuals around those jobs. You know, heavy equipment starts to need to build more heavy equipment. People that build cable need to manufacture, so it starts to feed that. Okay, but the piece this gentleman was talking about as far as our manufacturing base.
Right.
Okay, we can all get $1,000 next week, okay? But you go to the Target, you go to the Kmart,
That's right.
and you look at the label, where's that money going?
China.
It's going right back to China. It's not staying here. So my question is, how much money is in the stimulus plan that gives American companies incentive to bring offshore operations back to this country?
General Motors started a brand new revolution, and it was started by a guy named Jose Lopez. He was in purchasing, and the idea was this is what GM needed to do to pull itself out of, because it looked like it was slipping into bankruptcy. And so what they decided to do was let purchasing run General Motors. And at that time, General Motors was one of the most powerful companies in the world. What they did was we were suppliers and had been for 60, 70, 80 years to General Motors. General Motors started a thing called global sourcing. And they said from now on, instead of just sourcing at AC Spark Plug, Delco, and all of our little companies, we are going to source around the world to the lowest bidder, period. And that lowest bidder must match quality. And that was it. Before that, we were in a quality war with
Whether or
Japan.
not-
But is there quality in that?
Okay, can I
One second, let him
Okay.
finish.
Now, what happened was, because at that time I said, oh, this won't work, because GM had gone into a Deming philosophy. And this Deming philosophy is the one that Japan used to pull itself up. And so we were all trained in Deming, and then all of a sudden we shifted to Lopez philosophy, which was totally against Deming. Okay, I said Ford and Chrysler will not follow. Ford and Chrysler did follow. Before you know it, everybody followed. And if you just look recently, the U.S. military was following that procedure. They were globally sourcing jet airplanes. And so